just 15 or 16 years old and already noticing aggressive hair loss? Did you get tits or have a low libido? Did you get increased cheek and beard hair from minoxidil or finasteride? And when did it happen? 10 years plus. Study done in 523 Japanese men, all diagnosed with androgenic alopecia. Some people suggesting that you need to do a loading phase for dutasteride or finasteride. Which shampoos do you use? There is a lot of anecdotal evidence saying, oh, you could either take half a dose of 0.5 milligrams of finasteride once a day or take it once every other day. The problem with this is hair transplant don't believe the hype. Hello everyone, today I'm taking you on a deep dive on a particular medication that is very commonly used when it comes to hair loss. And the medication I'm talking about is something called finasteride. We're going to break down a real life transformation from someone who's been taking this medication for 12 years. Let's go through the reactions, let's go through the pictures they've uploaded, let's go through the comments that have been supplied on Reddit and so on, and then let's see what insights we can glean from this case. So 12 years ago, our story's focus was a teenager, just 15 or 16 years old and already noticing aggressive hair loss, which you can see in that first picture there from 2013. He didn't just have a receding hairline, but he had a full-blown male pattern baldness before even finishing high school. So that's very early on for this level of hair loss to occur. And it would make me suspicious of potentially another skin condition or genetic problem going on. But either way, that's years before most people even think about thinning of the hair. This person did what you see all over hair loss forums. He researched the big three when it comes to hair loss: finasteride, minoxidil, derma rolling. Being honest, he knew he wouldn't keep up with more complicated routines. So he chose the simple option, which is starting off with 1 milligram of finasteride once a day, every single day. And he started using it, and you can see from 2013 to 2015, for the first 2 years, the results were so good, he actually stopped taking progress photos. Direct quote from him, he says, by 2 years, I was more than happy. But the problem is hair loss is tricky, especially with aggressive genetics, which this person had, considering how early his hair loss started. So around 9 years after taking finasteride, he noticed some slow thinning again. Nothing too dramatic, but you can see that in the 2021 picture where it looks a little bit worse than his 2015 picture. Just after that, almost a decade, so 10 years later, even finasteride was struggling to fight against strong genetic hair loss. But instead of giving up, he pivoted. He added oral minoxidil, and he chose a dosage of 5 milligrams, which is a little bit higher than the normal low dose minoxidil of 2.5 milligrams once a day. Suddenly, not only was he keeping most of his scalp hair, but his beard also grew fuller as well, and that's what minoxidil does for you. So very briefly, let's explain what finasteride is. Finasteride is known as a DHT blocker, and that's just sort of a catch-all term. There's a few medications in there. Specifically, finasteride is a alpha reductase inhibitor that works on the DHT pathway, DHT meaning dihydrotestosterone, a form of testosterone, and finasteride directly ends up lowering DHT levels. This ends up leading to better hair because the main driving mechanism when it comes to hair loss in men is going to be androgenic alopecia, aka DHT-driven alopecia. So stopping or reducing the production of DHT does improve your hair loss and your hair itself. Primarily, finasteride is usually prescribed as a prostate drug. It's given to millions of people all over the world. In terms of prostate, for people who don't know what that is, it's an organ that only men have, not women, and it is used to produce seminal fluid, so the fluid that's involved in making semen. The prostate lies just in front of the bladder, and it does actually go around the urethra. So when you have prostate enlargement, which can happen, it does cause pressure on the urethra, and a lot of men have trouble going to the toilet. They find it's harder to pass urine. They have more frequency and more hesitancy when it comes to passing urine. Finasteride is prescribed for these patients because it does do an effective job of reducing the size of the prostate, which allows the prostate to release that pressure on top of the urethra, improving the urinary symptoms. It's also used in some more dangerous conditions like prostate cancer. In some countries, it's only prescription based. So where I am in the UK, you need a prescription in order to be taking finasteride. You can't just buy it over the counter. In some other countries, it can be bought over the counter, and it is very, very effective. So there's a particular study I'm going to pull up on screen just now. This is a study done in Italy where they administered 1 milligram daily finasteride to 118 men, and they asked them to take it for the next 10 years. And these are the data compiled from that research study over 10 years of 118 men taking finasteride 1 milligram daily. And that study was focused on researching the long-term effectiveness and the safety of finasteride. Without going through the whole study in detail, let's take away what are the key points coming out of this study. They found that finasteride was generally effective, with the majority of patients either improving or maintaining their hair growth over a 10-year period. There was a little bit of a drop in efficacy noted between 5 to 10 years, but this was less severe than the baseline results. Interestingly, it turned out that older patients and those people with more severe alopecia showed better responses. Patients with a higher grade of alopecia were showing improvement even after just 1 year of taking medication. And also the predictiveness of that first year was very important. So about 25% of the people who did not show improvement in that first year did start to see improvement by year 5. But overall, how your hair growth changed within the first year of taking finasteride was a really good indicator of what it's going to do long term for you. And interestingly, in terms of side effects, this is where most people get stressed out about it. A very small percentage of these men reported any side effects whatsoever. Despite some decline after 5 years, the majority of men there reported increased effectiveness and hair growth even right through to 10 years, proving that finasteride has an enduring effectiveness. Just before I move on to the next one, if you are here and you've been taking finasteride yourself, I do want to get your story, I want to get your opinion, so please leave a comment telling me how it's going for you. Moving on to our next study, this is another study, it was another long-term, so 10 years plus study done in 523 Japanese men, all diagnosed with androgenic alopecia. I'll go through this study, but I'm not going to go through it in detail. Long story short, this study showed very improved hair growth and reduction in hair loss across all 523 men, with the majority of men improving their Norwood classification grade by at least 1 point within the 5 to 10 years after starting finasteride. And a very important point here, the authors say that during this study, no serious adverse reaction was reported, which suggests that maybe people were experiencing some adverse reactions which did clear up over time with continued use, but no one reported any serious, severe side effects that caused them to stop taking that drug. Let's look at some reactions to these pictures that I've managed to get from Reddit and see what this author has actually replied in terms of how he was using it. So the first question here, I'll put it up on screen there, but it says, can you elaborate on how your oral minoxidil dosage is increased? I know you ended at 5 milligrams, and in your other comments you said you started by using 1 milligrams. The author there has said, may have misspoken, the oral minoxidil has a half-life of around 6 to 7 hours, accurate. In addition to this, going from 2.5 to 5 milligram has exponential growth on free-flowing systematic responses, also quite accurate, which can be worse for side effects, yes. For the best of both worlds, he was taking 2.5 milligrams twice a day. So there's no need to take it twice a day, you can take 5 milligram once a day, but if you are scared about side effects of minoxidil, which can be lowering blood pressure and so on, then yes, 2.5 milligrams twice a day is a reasonable way to take it, and it's not going to cause any major issues. Next comment here is saying, did you get increased cheek and beard hair from minoxidil or finasteride, and when did it happen? Should thin lowers DHT, it makes your skin less oily and stuff. The author's response to that was he got both of those. I'm assuming he means an increase in cheek and beard hair. He says his beard is a lot less patchy now, it looks a lot better. So yes, finasteride and minoxidil do work on hair, but that's not quite specific to the scalp hair. It can also include the facial hair. Finasteride is more specific to scalp hair, so it works better for that. Minoxidil is more of a systemic drug, works all over the body. Of course, depending on the form of minoxidil you're taking. If you take topical, aka like a gel or a cream or a foam of some sort, then wherever you apply that medication is where it's going to work. So on your head, it will only work on your head. If you are taking a tablet version, like this gentleman here, then yes, you will have a more body-wide effect. So the beard will be affected, and so would the body, such as chest, back, arm and leg hair. But yes, it does work on more than just the scalp hair. And the second part of his comment saying, does it make your skin less oily and stuff? Author hasn't actually responded to this, but yes, in theory, finasteride does actually make your skin a little bit less oily and a bit more drier. That's because a lot of these oil glands are strongly stimulated by DHT, dihydrotestosterone. So naturally lowering DHT would mean less of a stimulation effect on these oil glands. So less sebum is produced, less skin oil is produced. Therefore, your skin becomes a little bit less oily and a bit more dry. But that's not its primary purpose, and that's very variable. So it doesn't mean that everyone who's taking finasteride will have dry skin. Some people will notice it more, some people will notice it less, and it's not the primary mechanism of how it works. Next question we've got here from a commenter is, which shampoos do you use? Do you weight train? Can you describe your sleep and diet habits? The author has written here that he has the traditional keto shampoo, so keto meaning ketoconazole shampoo. It's an antifungal, also pretty good for lowering inflammation in the scalp, but its performance is nothing compared to Thin and Mint. That's true, yeah. So ketoconazole shampoo is a very useful thing to use. It will reduce inflammation in the scalp, has an effect on hair growth, but it's not going to really significantly recover anything. Rather just improves overall scalp health, allowing better hair to grow. But for improvement of hair loss, stopping hair loss and regrowing hair, minoxidil and finasteride are much better for that. The author also says it's almost not important and he rarely uses it. Fair enough. More important in his opinion is scalp health. Just avoid cheap supermarket shampoo, use something decent. This is another point to make. Yes, cheaper shampoos with a lot of different chemicals can cause inflammation, medication, but most shampoos are very similar. There's only really a few ingredients you need to call something a shampoo. All the other stuff inside is just extra fluff, like binding agents, colorings, and scents, and so on and so forth. Most shampoos work exactly the same. There's no point going for a very expensive shampoo when a cheaper one will do the trick. Of course, you want a reputable brand with good shampoos. You don't want your standard 7-in-1 shampoo for no reason. Author also says he lifts weights 3 times a week, pretty regular Western diet, maybe slightly healthier. So nothing too out of the ordinary. Well, actually, maybe nowadays lifting weights 3 times a week might be a little bit out of the ordinary. But as you can see, he was still very active, still very healthy overall, which probably did have an effect on his results, because having a better overall health, including diet, exercise, sleep, and so on, is going to make certain things more effective, and on a general point of view, make things work a little bit better. The next comment from someone is saying, hair transplant, don't believe the hype. We've got another reply to that, not from the author, but someone else is saying no, likely his follicles were all dormant and not dead since he was very young when he began the treatment. You can get results like this if you're lucky. I think that's quite accurate. So in this gentleman here, you can see from the pictures, he did have quite advanced hair loss, but he still had little bits of hair all over, right? He wasn't completely bald. There's a point where the hair loss becomes irreversible, and that's when that skin is almost completely free of hair follicles. It becomes very shiny, very smooth skin. At that point, regardless of medication, you're not going to get much result. The hair is almost completely gone. And at that point, all you can do is a hair transplant in order to regraft those areas, refolliculize those areas. And that's the only way you can bring hair back to that area. But like this gentleman, you can see he wasn't quite at that level, very, very close. And he started the medication at the right time. And as you can see, he's got a good result. So yes, this can be all medication driven. The key thing here is 12 years worth of medication. It's not quick. It takes a long time to get there. The author has responded to that comment. He says, no hair transplant here. I'm likely a very good responder to the drugs. I agree with this. He has had a great response to the drugs. Next comment is saying, no hair transplants? Did you get tits or have a low libido? So I assume this commenter is responding to gynecomastia, which is one of the potential side effects of finasteride. And he says, also grow a picture, or I think he means show a picture with your hair grown, like at least a year without a haircut. It looks thick and magnificent. So author's reply said, thanks for the kind words, no transplant and no other side effects from finasteride at all. So yes, this is a common thing. People look at side effects and they assume it's 100% chance that you'll get those side effects. That's not the case. These side effects are side effects. It's not the main effect. They don't always come. And actually the rate of side effects in finasteride is relatively low. The majority of people who are taking these medications don't experience any side effects at all. If you're considering taking medication for hair loss, I wouldn't go into that expecting to see side effects or keeping hyper aware of any potential side effects, because you're only going to give yourself anxiety and stress about that. Rather, start taking medication. If you start experiencing side effects, then deal with that at that point in time. You can stop the medication, reduce dosage, and so on. But don't go in already defeating yourself before you even get started. And in the vast majority of cases, once you stop the offending drug, in this case finasteride, the side effects do usually go away within a couple of weeks. So it's a very low chance, even if you do get side effects, that you end up with any permanent issues. There are some cases, they call it post-finasteride syndrome, where side effects tend to have lasted longer, even after stopping finasteride, but these are far and away very rare cases. Let's talk about the shedding cycle of finasteride. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence about shedding on finasteride. I've seen comments and heard things about people going for a first, a second, even multiple sheds while on finasteride. Shedding in this case referring to hair becoming thin again and then revolumizing a little bit later on. A single shed is quite common, usually either 3 or 4 months down the line, or even like 9 or 10 months down the line. Possibly some people could get multiple sheds as time goes on if they're using finasteride for a long time. A lot of this is related to natural hair cycles, telogen, catagen, anagen, and so on. I wouldn't worry too much about shedding. Just be aware there may be sometimes where your hair looks a little bit thinner, but finasteride is still working in the background to bring it back up and make it look fuller again. Your genetics don't change. If you're still experiencing hair loss, it is still trying to lose hair under the surface. Finasteride is your sort of shield, your bandage, your blockage against that from happening. With finasteride, one of the questions could be, how long does it take to start working? Well, as soon as you start taking finasteride or dutasteride, it starts doing its job of lowering DHT levels, but this is not immediate. It takes a bit of time to achieve it, maybe the first few weeks in terms of loading. And then from there, let's say your DHT levels are adequately suppressed. The hair is not going to sprout up immediately. It also takes time for hair to grow. If you were to trim all your hair off right now, how long would it take you before it gets to the same level where you were? For most people, it's going to be 3, 4, or 5 months down the line where they achieve that big thick head of hair again. And so it's going to take a similar amount of time to actually notice any effects from finasteride. You can stop the DHT, but you're still waiting for that hair to grow. Typically, I would say to people to consider taking at least 5 or 6 months of finasteride. By that point in time, you should see some improvement, but you do need to, for good results, take it for at least 12 months to actually see some improvement. And the longer you take it, the better it's going to be. as evidenced by this gentleman here. I would say that if you're going to take hair loss medication, you need to realize that it will be a commitment from you. You are committing to at least 12 months worth. Anything less than that is not really useful, and it's probably going to make you feel like it hasn't worked, when the truth is you just haven't given it the time it's needed to work. So you should commit to at least 12 months. Then you can reassess and see whether or not it's the correct treatment from you, whether or not you should carry on or consider stopping or going a different way. As a quicker ending, some comments and so on, some people suggesting that you need to do a loading phase for dutasteride or finasteride, where you take a higher amount for a period of 1 or 2 weeks beforehand and then drop down to a normal regular amount. This is completely unnecessary. Finasteride, dutasteride as enzyme reductase inhibitors do not rely on a loading phase or blood buildup. They rely on a steady level of drug in the plasma at all times based on their half-life, and usually this is enough to do it once a day. And so loading is not going to make any difference. It's not going to speed up the process. Rather, you're just opening yourself up to more side effects for no real increased gain. And remember, it takes a long time for effects to happen anyway, regardless of a loading phase. So I would advise not to load. And a second point to this, some people do go off script. The recommended dose for finasteride is 1 milligram once a day. For dutasteride is 0.5 milligram once a day. This is what we know works. This is what the evidence has shown works. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence saying, oh, you could either take half a dose of 0.5 milligrams of finasteride once a day or take it once every other day. The problem with this is that you are going into the unresearched area of taking these drugs where no one can assure you whether or not it works. No one has the answers on whether or not that's the right thing to do. Just some very small evidence which may suggest, but is not strong enough to be confident about. My advice would be, don't go off script, stick to the plan, stick to what we know works. Either do 1 milligram of finasteride or 0.5 milligrams of dutasteride. I think the reason some people do this is to try and manage the rate of side effects. Again, this is not going to make a difference. So do it properly, don't go off script, and you don't want to end up in a position where you've made your own decision and incorrectly taken the drugs on purpose, and then you're surprised that you're not getting the results you otherwise expected. But then at that point, you unfortunately only have yourself to blame. So stick to the script, use the drugs the way they're meant to be used, and you should receive the effects that you're meant to get. If you thought this was a good video, a quick rundown of how finasteride works and the effectiveness of it, hopefully I've shown you a few examples, including a particular case study where it worked really well for someone. Some of the studies I've gone through. One of the reasons I make these videos is that I'm quite passionate about education. I've learned in my life as a doctor that when people are educated, when people are knowledgeable about why I'm recommending what I'm recommending, they're far more likely to actually stick to the plan and go for it. It's not useful if you come to me saying, oh doctor, I've got a cough, and I say, oh, here's your antibiotics, off you go. I'll say, well, how long have you had the cough for? I think it's a bacterial or a viral infection. Either you do need antibiotics or you don't need antibiotics based on this, and this. People are far more likely to agree with me because I've explained why I'm saying what I'm saying. And I do think this needs to be a baseline if anyone's trying to give medical information to people, because it's very easy to give the wrong information. And I do see a lot of people on YouTube or Instagram, social medias, influencers, throwing out half-baked content, creating misinformation in this space. I'm not saying that I'm the most intelligent person in the world, I know everything there is to know, but I do feel it's one of my duties to try and correct the misinformation when I do see it. And I try to give out the information that I know to be true based on evidence, factual data, studies, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this information helps you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like this content, subscribe to us for more. And if you think you need to get a hair transplant sorted, you need some medication, then head down to the description. There'll be a link in there to my website where you can book yourself in for a consultation with me, Dr. Shah Mahmood, where we can discuss what the right option is for you.